leaving him in a deep financial hole. And then there was the other woman, someone who represented the thrilling, unencumbered life he so desperately wanted. Clara, with her gentle soul and unwavering trust, had become an obstacle, an anchor he was determined to cut loose. The anniversary trip was his masterstroke, or so he believed. It was the perfect cover, a romantic gesture that would lull Clara and everyone else into a false sense of security. He planned every detail with chilling precision. The remote hiking trail, the stunning but treacherous cliffside view, the timing at sunset when few others would be around. He even researched the tides and the jagged rocks below, convincing himself that a fall from that height would be unsurvivable. In his mind, it was the perfect tragic accident. A grieving husband, a terrible loss. No one would ever suspect the man who seemed to love his wife so dearly. The motive was a toxic cocktail of greed and desperation. Clara had a substantial life insurance policy, one he had encouraged her to increase just a year prior. It was the answer to all his problems. The money would clear his debts, fund his new life, and free him to be with the woman he now desired. He had convinced himself that he wasn't a monster. He was just a man taking control of his destiny, making a difficult but necessary choice. As he stood on that cliff, feigning affection, he felt not a shred of guilt, only the cold, hard certainty of his plan. He was just one push away from freedom. The fall was not a quick, merciful end. It was a terrifying eternity of wind, fear, and the sickening rush of gravity. Clara's body tumbled through the air, colliding with jagged outcrops of rock that tore at her clothes and her skin. Each impact was a starburst of agony, a brutal percussion against the symphony of the crashing waves. She was conscious for most of it, a spectator to her own destruction. The initial shock of Mark's betrayal was quickly overwhelmed by the primal, desperate will to live. She tried to grab onto something, anything, but her fingers found only empty air and sharp, unforgiving stone. Her descent ended not in the deep, churning water as Mark had intended, but on a narrow, hidden ledge just above the high tide line. The impact was jarring, a final bone-shattering blow that stole the air from her lungs and plunged her into a merciful darkness. When consciousness returned, it was in fragmented waves of excruciating pain. Her world was a haze of grey rock, salty spray, and the relentless roar of the ocean. One leg was bent at an unnatural angle, and a deep gash on her forehead bled freely into her eyes, blurring her vision with crimson. Every breath was a battle, a sharp, stabbing reminder of her broken ribs. As the cold of the evening set in, a chilling realization washed over her. Mark wasn't coming for her. He had left her here to die. The man who had vowed to protect her had tried to murder her. The emotional pain was somehow sharper than the physical torment. She was alone, broken, and at the mercy of the elements. The tide was rising, its icy fingers creeping closer to the precarious ledge where she lay. Survival seemed impossible. Yet, deep within her, a flicker of defiance sparked to life. A stubborn refusal to let him win. A burning need to see his face again, not as a lover, but as a survivor who would expose his life.